This past Friday, I was with my girlfriend at a women's professional golf tournament near Atlantic City. And it was great. And went out there watching some of the best players in the world. There's a young woman who's new on the tour. She's 22. She's from Spain. She hits the ball farther than anybody else out there, and it was just fun to follow them around. So after a round, in the beginning it was hot, and we went over and looked at the hats and stuff they were selling, and I forgot my hat. And I thought, I'm not going to spend $45 for another golf hat. I got lots of hats. I'll just brave it out for the day. So we walked around and all that, and it was lunchtime, and we went over to where the food was. And I've been basically plant-based since 1987, mostly. And there wasn't anything for me to eat. So I said, why don't you get a cheeseburger and have lunch? And I ate a little snack that I had, and I thought I'll be all right. Then I looked up, and I saw an ice cream stand. And I thought, let me go check the ice cream stand. And not the healthiest lunch in the world. And I went over, and it was free. They were like, hey, you have free ice cream. So I went and got some vanilla, some Moose Track ice cream with whipped cream and coconut. Had some nice free ice cream. She finished. We started following the number one player in the world around. And we came to another section of, looked like maybe some food. The food antennas were up. So let's go walk over there. So we walked around, and next thing you know, this lady's like, hey, would you like a free half a bagel with our cream cheese? I'm like, yeah, I'd like that. Thank you. Then we went to another booth. They said, hey, would you like one of our gourmet potato chips that we're offering here? I'm like, yeah, I'd like to have that. Thank you very much. So we went and we came to another booth. It was a Paul Newman booth, and they had pizza. They were like, would you like a slice of pizza or would you like a pizza pie? It's all by donation. I'm like, hey, that's great. I'll have a cheese pizza pie and I'll have a regular marinara pizza pie. So we went and sat down at the bench and started eating our bagel and our chips. And this guy came out with 2 big boxes of pizzas. Put them down. We opened them up. And we were starting to laugh. We're like, oh my God, 20 minutes ago you had nothing to eat. Look what you manifested. All these goodies. And then all of a sudden the guy came out and he said, by the way, for your donation, you can either have a shirt or a hat. Wow. So I ended up with a Paul Newman hat and a grandiose lunch. That probably shortened my lifespan, but it was delicious, So it's a simple little story, but we were laughing and having a grand old time because we had been basically content and peaceful and enjoying whatever was unfolding since the evening before and that day, and it just manifested. Now, when you're living the path for a long time, you start to notice these things, don't you? When they unfold. Some people will go, it's just coincidence. They were giving away free food, you were hungry, and you ended up with food. What's the big deal? But the truth of the matter is, we didn't have to follow that group. We could have gone a different direction. I didn't necessarily know to walk in amongst those booths and all that stuff. It just happened naturally and was unfolding in a beautiful way. And that's my first point as we discuss this timeless prayer of St. Francis. And I'd like us to just do the first couple of verses and get to what we're talking about today. So if you join me in affirming this opening part of St. Francis's prayer together. Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. So that's what we want to talk about today. Where there is doubt, faith. And someone could say, you were just lucky. But when you have been consciously seeking to live your faith every day, you start to notice how things work out in your life. You start to notice, wow, that's incredible what just unfolded. It's not all about parking spaces. You know, everybody talks about parking spaces. I'm practicing metaphysics, and everywhere I go, I get a parking space. I mean, that's cool. I like open parking spaces. But what about when you don't get a parking space, you know? But as you walk your walk, you notice things. How many of you notice stuff that unfolds in your life? And it's serendipitous. And it's part of the walk of faith. And that's one of the points, is as we live what we know, as we take time daily to practice faith, we start to notice more and more things happening in our life that look like they're not just coincidence. They look divinely orchestrated. My friend Debbie likes to say, I love how spirit works. This looking and appreciating how spirit works in our life. We grow our faith through experience, to the point that when something difficult happens, maybe I would have just had a snack all day. It'd have been no problem. When other difficult things happen, you just know from your experience that God is still in charge, even if I don't know what the answer is. We'll talk more about that in a minute. So I'm starting out here with faith light, and as we go on, you'll see that we'll get a little deeper. Appreciate life's mysteries revealed through science. That's another way to replace doubt with faith. You know, I think a lot of people take what science has revealed to us for granted. Yes. Right? I mean, the scientists have been telling us some amazing things since the time we were kids. Think about it. All is energy. Matter's energy. Energy's matter. Wow. That's amazing. The chair you're sitting in is energy. The body you have is energy. That's incredible when you think about it. Here are some other mysteries that Deepak Chopra has talked about in one of his books. He says, we can't see 95% of the universe. Scientists can only sense that it exists. It's what they call dark matter. Think about that. They can only sense that it exists. 95% of the universe. They say the universe is declining in energy in what is called entropy. And yet islands of negative entropy exist, such as our planet. For billions of years, life on planet Earth has defied entropy. Isn't that interesting? Everything is supposedly declining, but not on the planet Earth as far as entropy goes. Scientists don't understand how DNA could come to exist. DNA survives in a hostile environment. Instead of declining, it becomes more complex. They don't understand that. Scientists don't understand how DNA becomes various organs in the body. They don't know how it becomes a heart cell or a kidney cell, or how neurons know how to become sight, hearing, taste, and touch. Scientists don't know that. And then, something that I think is interesting, you in there, you're in there, right? You in there, no scientist has ever been able to locate you in there. Yeah. They don't know where you are in there. They don't know where you are. When I do the Q&A, Rob, if you're listening, he likes to ask, what is the difference between the brain and the mind? And a couple of times I said, I don't really know. But then I thought about it more. And I thought, no scientist has ever seen a thought. You have a brain, they might monitor it and see it might light up different parts of your nervous system to where they can see there's something going on. But no scientist has ever seen a thought. It's invisible. You can't see an emotion, it's invisible. That's part of our mind, the invisible realm of energy in which thoughts occur. It's not your brain. Your brain is the physical instrument that can utilize the mind. But the mind is that field of energy that's part of the one mind of the universe. No scientist has ever seen a thought, and no scientist has ever found you in there. And by the time they do, I'll be gone. So, So here's Albert Einstein. He said, try and penetrate with our limited means the secrets of nature, and you will find that behind all the discernible laws and connections, there remains something subtle, intangible, and inexplicable. Veneration for this force beyond anything we can comprehend is my religion. To that extent, I am, in fact, religious. Einstein. So appreciating life's mysteries revealed through science can actually enhance our faith. The rishis of old, the sages of old, of the Upanishads, the ancient Indian teachings, have been talking about God as light, the reality of things being light. For thousands of years they were talking about that. Now science can see that there is a field of light in the quantum field out of which everything is popping in and out. Now science is revealing that to us. Engage in regular inspiration. Regular inspiration. As Carl Jung talked about, there's a collective unconscious. And if there's one mind of which we're all a part of, then we're affected by other people. We're affected by other vibrations. Everybody's putting out a vibration, right? You ever walk into a particular room and you're like, whoa, this feels heavy in this room. You walk into other place and it feels light, it feels peaceful, you feel uplifted. Why? It has to do with the vibrations that people are emanating in that room, and that's very powerful. Well, negative vibrations can pull us down. Advertising, telling you you're not enough. You need this and you need that to be whole. Reading the news, watching negative videos, all can pull us down. And before you know it, you can feel, I don't know if God really exists. Gee, I don't know. Should I trust God? Or should I trust the fear that's running my brain in the moment? And that's why I think it's important to engage in regular inspiration, like reading or listening to something inspirational every day, to give yourself that shot of daily inspiration. I do. I have some little books by Yogananda that I read every day. And they're just positive reminders of what it's all about. And that can boost your consciousness. Daily meditation is important. Why is daily meditation important? It's important because you get fed from the inside out. Emotionally, you might feel down. Your mind might be off a little bit. Your thoughts may be off. You might be overcome by emotion and just not feel too happy or encouraged. When you take time in daily meditation in silence, you get an inner boost. You get an inner sense of peace and well-being that comes from nowhere other than within. It's not triggered by any outer thing. It's all from within you. And that is a daily boost. Daily meditation is not something that I think people should do because it's the right thing to do, because it's a religious thing to do, because everybody talks about meditation. Meditation is a daily booster shot. I know of ministers who burn out because they don't have a rich daily prayer life. Okay? They're out serving and doing all this good stuff, but they're not connecting with the source at the center of their being, and they burn out. When I graduated ministerial school in 1993, it was believed at that time that after 3 years, most ministers in unity drop out of ministry. Why? Because unity is not about, people don't come to unity because you're supposed to come to unity. They don't come because they're afraid of going to hell if they don't. They don't come because they think they're going to die and go to heaven. They come because they're getting some kind of benefit out of it. And keeping a ministry going and all the different parts that happen, a lot of ministers burn out because they're not plugging in on a daily basis. Well, if that's true for ministers, it's true for any area of our life, because we all have challenges in relationships and finances, in business, with grandchildren, with spouses, with partners. You know, life has a lot of challenges in it, doesn't it? With what's going on in the world around us. And so it's very important to plug in on a daily basis, not once in a while, on a daily basis. If you drive a car, do you put gas in it, only once in a while when it feels right? No, you put gas in it when it needs it. We need to plug in on a daily basis. That's what gives you the strength and the power to move through any experience, because you're plugging into source. You're plugging into source. So daily meditation helps us to begin to not just believe in God out here somewhere, but actually start to experience God. You start to experience the presence, to know it. And that's the kind of faith we want to develop. We don't want to just develop an intellectual idea of what God is. I wrote about it in Super U, where these ministers were checking out mangoes, and they were measuring the mangoes. They were testing the quality of the mangoes. They were determining the colors and the different shapes and how they grow and all that. And they said, "Where's Frank?" "Oh, I don't know where Frank is. He was here earlier. Where is he? I don't know. Let's go find him." Well, they walked, and there was Frank laying on a rock in the sun eating mangoes. Frank was the only one who really knew what a mango tasted like. He was eating the mangoes. He wasn't analyzing them. He wasn't thinking about them. And the same is true for faith. True faith is beyond belief. It's beyond just a belief. I believe God exists. I believe in this. I believe in that. No, it's a realization. It's experiencing God. And the more we experience God, the more we get filled up in prayer and meditation, the more we start to know. The more we realize there is a reality inside of me beyond the external. Vivekananda, the great sage, before he was a disciple of Ramakrishna, he went around India interviewing gurus, Indian teachers. He wanted to find someone who knew God, and he kept asking them, "Do you believe in God or do you know God?" And they all said, "I believe in God." Then he came to Ramakrishna, and Ramakrishna said to the question, he said, "God is more real to me than the one who's asking the question." Ramakrishna saw everything as light. He was so aware of the presence of God that he could see light everywhere and feel God's presence all the time. That's the kind of faith we want to ultimately develop, right? That no matter what's going on around us, in the world, happening to us, we have an unshakable faith, an unshakable awareness of the presence and activity of God. Yogananda talked about having a faith amidst the crash of breaking worlds, so that you can stand like a general in the field of the battle of life and know that all is well, for I and the Father are one. So engage in regular inspiration. As Emerson said, when you break with the God of tradition and cease from the God of the intellect, God fires you with his presence. Choose your company carefully. It's been said, who are you going to become 5 years from now? And it's been said, you'll become what you're reading today and according to your 5 closest friends. Who are your 5 closest friends? Are they how you want to become in 5 years? What kind of people do you spend time with? What kind of people do you interact with? The yogis talk about right company. Sangha, that's the name of our fellowship area downstairs. The Sangha space. It has to do with right company. Are all 5 of your friends dead broke, flat broke, complaining about being broke all the time? If you're interested in growing your finances, you might want to change some of that. Are your friends spiritual? Are they the way you want to become? Very important to choose right company. I find it helpful. For me, one of the reasons you hear me quote Yogananda so much is because Yogananda, I believe, and from the witness accounts of the people who knew him, and from reading his ideas and teachings, he was a contemporary example of someone who knew God the way Jesus Christ knew God. So I believe in Jesus Christ. I also believe in Buddha and Lao Tzu. And Yogananda, for me, is a contemporary person in the 1900s who lived and walked this. So when I read his stuff, when I read about him, it inspires me, it encourages me. When you read other people who have walked the faith, walked the path, like the Dalai Lama or Gandhi, can you think of anybody else? Who do you think of in history who has been a man of or a woman of faith who inspires you? Anybody have any ideas? The Fillmores, Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, absolutely. In the late 1800s, they grew this movement and had faith through the Depression and so on to develop unity movement. Who else? Eric Butterworth. Who else? The Pope? Okay, the last Pope. Yeah, man of faith, right? Who else in history? Martin Luther King. Yes. Yes. Who risked his life for his belief system. Who? Emmett Fox. All right, yes. How about Gandhi? Gandhi is one who walked his faith amidst violence, amidst hatred. You know, he was a very spiritual individual, right? He wasn't just a great politician. It was all driven by his faith and his knowing of God. So who do you think of who can inspire you when you have doubts? It can be helpful to have pictures of those people. I have pictures on my prayer altar where I do my meditation practice, where I do my spiritual reading of people who inspire me. And it can be very helpful to have pictures like that. Choose your company carefully. That's part of your company. Who do you relate to? Who do you think about? And also, watch what you consume as far as media, because that's part of your company too, isn't it? That's part of what we fill our mind also. How much of the news do you fill your mind? How much of it? There's a point where you know what's going on. Then there's a point where maybe I'm overindulging. Maybe this is more than I need to know at the moment. What do you watch for entertainment? What do you do for entertainment? Do you feel uplifted afterwards? I'm not saying always watch uplifting stuff. I'd be a hypocrite if I said that. Maybe that's an area of growth for me because I do watch some stuff that's not all that uplifting. But I do know when I've overindulged and it starts to affect me emotionally. And so you've got to be aware of how what you're taking into your consciousness affects your consciousness and can pull you down and affect your faith in God. If all you're doing is watching these scandals and, people who are messing up other people's lives or murder this and murder that and whatever, next thing you know, you're feeling affected by it. It affects you. Your emotions affect us. And so just being aware of what are we bringing into our consciousness. The late Zig Ziglar said you can't scratch with the turkeys if you want to fly with the eagles. Who are the eagles you want to fly with? I want to fly with the great saints and sages. The St. Francis, the Mother Teresa of Avila, the Yoganandas, the Jesus Christ, the Buddhas. These people are walking in faith and joy and love and they're useful. The Thich Nhat Hanhs, the Gandhis. They're people who are involved in the world, but from a higher level of consciousness. Have faith when things are difficult. Have faith when things are difficult. Faith is a choice that transcends outcomes and results. Faith is a choice that transcends outcomes and results. When I was new on the path, I asked myself, what will faith in God do for me? Will this metaphysical stuff actually work in my life? What will it do for me? And then there have been times where I'm like, well, I don't understand it. Does this stuff really work? This isn't working in my life. How come? Does God really exist? Is this metaphysical stuff ridiculous? Anybody ever have thoughts like that? It's taken me years of the journey to understand that faith is not all about getting the parking spot. Faith is not all about getting what we want. There are some who say that's not what faith is about at all, actually. You may get what you want, but real spiritual journey is about a relationship with Spirit. It's about cultivating an awareness of the presence of God no matter what's going on in our life. I didn't pray, God, I don't have anything to eat. Thank you for providing me with a lunch. I didn't pray that prayer. When we're in tune, you don't even have to ask. Didn't Jesus say you don't have to ask for what you need of? The Father knows what you have need of before you ask. Amen. When you're living the journey, the spiritual journey, you don't even have to ask. It just sort of shows up and manifests in your life. And when it doesn't manifest in your life, you don't just throw the baby out with the bathwater and go, I don't know if God doesn't exist. You know, it's easy to do that, especially when you see stuff happening in the world around you, like a child gets sick, or there's craziness going on in the world around us. And it's easy to get caught. One of the questions I've had over the years is, I don't understand how come nature is so violent. Why do animals have to eat each other? That doesn't seem very loving and kind. There are questions that we don't have answers to. Should that interfere with our faith? I say no. A more mature understanding of faith moves beyond what it's doing for me. A more mature understanding of faith is, I want to know God. I want to love God. I want to feel God's presence. I want to live in this inner joy and peace and in this communion with God, no matter what's happening in my life or in the world around me. That's when it becomes about God and not about me. That's when it becomes about a relationship. That's when it becomes about something that's eternal. Something that stands with us no matter what's happening around us. And it's something that we can find no matter where we are. There have been times in my life where I've thought, gee, what would it be like in a nursing home where I had no family, maybe no friends, and I'm there, as many people are, in a nursing home. And I thought, you know what? God is there. God is there. I want to cultivate a relationship and awareness of God so that even in a nursing home, I'm aware of God's presence, and I'm aware of joy, and I'm aware of love. Faith is a choice that transcends outcome and results. Let's grow in our faith so that when things don't seem to be working the way we think they should work, it doesn't touch our faith and our relationship with God. There's a song, "My Lord, I will be thine always. Devotees may come, devotees may go, but my Lord, I will be thine always." That's devotion. That's commitment. That's true faith. There was a minister during World War II. His son was a chaplain on a ship in World War II. And of course, he prayed for his son's safety, and the ship went down, and his son drowned. And he struggled with his faith. How could this happen? I'm a minister. My son was a minister. I prayed for my son. He died. How could this happen? And then he had the realization, you know what? My faith in God is unconditional. And he began to affirm every morning, I believe, I believe, I believe. And eventually his faith was restored. He realized his faith was something independent of what happened with his son. He understood a greater perspective. You know, during World War II, some Catholic scouts discovered underneath the buildings in Cologne, Germany, there were some passageways underneath the ground. And 9 fugitive Jews were hidden in rooms in those passageways underneath the ground. They found there was kitchen tables down there. There was a place to store food. There was little libraries. They had some kerosene lamps. And they received food, maybe from the Catholic scouts, maybe from friends who gave a portion of their food from their rations. And these Jewish fugitives were down there for 4 months until they got away safely. But what they found after the war was etched on one of the walls down underneath the ground were these words. And I think these words capture the ideal of faith, where you can have faith no matter what's going on in your life. I believe in the sun, though it be dark. I believe in God, though he be silent. I believe in neighborly love, though it be unable to reveal itself. That, ladies and gentlemen, is a faith that you and I are all capable of. Developing an awareness of a presence of God beyond what tradition says, beyond a God of the intellect, but a God that fires us with his presence. Let's get still. And let's just know, as the psalmist said, be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that I am God. Though life around us can be difficult, though we may not understand things with our eyes and our ears and our senses, there is a place at the center of our being where there is peace, a peace that passes all understanding. There is a place at the center of our being where there is well-being, where there is joy, a place where we can feel the support and the love of this presence and activity that we call God, we call Spirit. And so we journey forward this day in faith and in trust to know this presence, to have it reveal itself to us in ever greater ways. So, Lord, we pray, reveal thyself to us. Reveal yourself to us. And we move forward in faith and in love and in gratitude. And so it is. Amen.